We're here. I can get my unicorn at some point. Doesn't have to be today. Most importantly, I can get my jobstone. My voice is starting to hurt a little. And I think it's the, like, old alien kind of Yoda-y voice that I'm using for people like him that's tearing me up. There's some gravelly ones, too. When you get into that almost, like, smokery tone. I don't know how voice actors do it. So I need that... I need that jobstone. I don't want to talk to Isumi Yan. Alright. We'll go do one quest with the Sylphs and then come back and get a jobstone. I think he hands me off. If it works like most jobs, most of the time I feel like they typically wrap that story up and then you get somebody else for 30 to 50 and that person also helps you with 50 to 60 and 60 to 70 and then that's kind of the end of job quest. There's a little one at 80. It doesn't. That's really the end. Because that's when role quests were introduced. Oh god, I can't fly. Okay. So. Somebody gifted you a llama sub before you could renew? That happens. That happens. Did you gift a sub? They have that little button now that like asks if you want to pay it forward that sometimes pops up, and I think it's based around that concept of people that are like, oh, I wanted to support this creator and somebody already got me this month. Plus he's got all those fun cheers and stuff. Alright. Comoxio. Hello. Hello. Walking One is not familiar with this one. This one does not trust strange walking ones. Strange dancing ones might be a different story, but this one expects no such thing. Walking One should go home and leave this one be. This one would welcome Walking One who moves like these ones. If Walking One would talk to this one will answer. This one is a busy one, so Walking One should speak with quick tongue. Walking One would bring gift to this one. Walking One is most kind. Walking One brings Milkroot. Milkroot fills this one with great joy. This one gives thanks, gives many, many thanks. Walking One carries message for Elder One. This one will deliver message to Elder One. Walking One should not worry. Hello there. We're envoys from Gridania. We're here to treat your people. Aye. We come to pay our respects to your elder and learn from him more of your Lord Ramu. Who are these ones? These Walking Ones come from Gridania? Walking One became a dancing one and brought Milkroot, but Walking One tricks this one. This one does not like tricks. This one will speak no more. Elder One busy. Walking One should go home. Go home, you say? But the Sylphs of Little Solace have always welcomed Gridanian envoys. Open wings. The letter carried by Meteor here is oath of peace penned by Elder Seatsier herself. Still you would refuse us? These one's reasons are no business of Walking One's. Elder One has no words for Gridania. Walking One wastes everyone's time. Well, I never turned away at the gates. Whatever did we do to deserve such a rude welcome? Was Peter's jig insufficiently jiggy? Well, I'm as baffled as you are, but something tells me recent events have our erstwhile fluttery friends feeling uncommonly wary. Would seem we've no choice but to ask around and see how we might earn their trust. These are all trash, aren't they? I don't want any of those. Alright. You know, if you guys had just let me, like, have the meeting without you, would have been fine. You did this. It was going fine. I'm gonna eat some raisins. My raisins look a lot like a muffin, see? They're almost a muffin, but they're just raisins. Lowland raisins. Alright. I think that gets us set. Ida and Papa Limo here. But I need to go back and do that class quest. I just don't want to. Let's see what these guys have to say. Say, Meteor, are you in the mood for dancing? That's right, dancing. You went through all that trouble of learning the Sylph's traditional greeting. You've greeted them with hardly any of them. Why, if I were Sylph, I'd be beside myself with delight to see an adventure expressing an interest in my culture. Me? Of course, I'd be happy to join. Oh, these bloody leg cramps, mine acting up again. I don't think you would. I don't think you would. I think you guys are making a fool of me. You guys say I have great gifts, and the gifts are that I'm gullible, malleable, and a moron. They're screwing with me. Alright. Walking one would be a friend to these ones. This one is overjoyed. But this one keeps the ways of weaving a secret. Even if Walking One learned the secret, Walking One could not weave in the same way. Walking One belly rumbling? This one need not make a meal. This one is boiling bark and flower seeds and dye thread. Color must be jolly. So must greet making. They're very riddly. Oh, Walking One knows Jolly Dance. Jolly Dance fills this one with good cheer. Let these two be friends. You guys aren't bothered by these giant gnats here? Very well then. What does this one want with this one? Elder One warned not to get too friendly with the Walking Ones. I wish my bird would dance with me. Ah, Walking One is friend to these ones. Friends like gracious Elder, the Forest City, knows how to dance into these ones' hearts. Alright, I've made a fool of myself for the entire thing. And the only reason I think I'm a fool, even though it's their traditional greeting, is that none of them danced back, and you guys did none of the dancing. As far as I can tell, it's all these people here, I'm the only one dancing. What do you sell? What do you sell? Huh? Will you take these? If this was Guild Wars, I could check the market board while I was here. It's kind of a neat trick they have. Alright. Meteor, would you like to hear the good news? Or the better news? The good news is that your lovely dancing has brought smiles and high spirits to all the little souls. The better news? Why, I've thoroughly recovered from those accursed leg cramps. Onward to our next adventure. Oh, level 36. But the quest is like level 21. Yeah, my god. Your chocobo should dance whenever you dance. It'd be amazing. Kick their feet out. Oh, it'd be amazing. Do a little moonwalk. Meteor, as an adventurer, you're no stranger to helping distressed folk. I'd wager. Tales of good deeds are quick to spread. The adventurer who comes to the aid of the local populace can go from stranger to hero overnight. No doubt you see what I'm getting at. The sylphs who didn't make their home in Little Solace do so having been driven from their woodland home. Surely they have their fair share of troubles. Seek out troubled sylphs and see what might be done to ease their worries. A sound plan, would you not say? That said, the sylphs are not known to share their worries with outsiders. You'd be better off inquiring the hero of media. Of Immedia? Is that a person? Of Verdanians who reside here, she is most likely to be privy to this sylph's troubles. Immedia? You know, I am pretty sure I've met this person like 6 times. They use the same model so often. Do they not have access to the character creator? I could swear they're the same person. And they wear the same robes. I think I'm being screwed with. I think this is like Marquez. This person's been following me around, messing with me. Oh. Ridiculous. Say you complete a Savage or Extreme, but you feel like you need to learn a fight more. What kind of party finder group would be stress-free? Any group where you're the expert. So if you're really worried about it, like if you feel that it went off the rails in phase 1 of a 2-phase fight, and then you got the clear, go back to a phase 1 prog party. And that way when that group goes to phase 2, like you're ahead of everybody else. Go somewhere where you're the expert, and that removes the stress. Because in my mind, the stress comes from being the worst one in the group. I don't need to be perfect. I can make mistakes. I can kill us. I just don't want to be, out of 10 wipes, I don't want to be responsible for the majority of them. There's 8 people. Across 10 wipes, it should be 8 different people that cause it. And everybody has things to improve every pull. Everybody can get better every pull. Even the people who never wiped us. But I don't want to be objectively the person holding us from prog. And so go back and do the phases that you've already got and get those really clean. That way when you go back into your clear party, assuming your clear party gets back together or something like that, you blow through phase 1 perfectly. And you'll feel so much better, because by the time you make a mistake in phase 2, you guys have probably wiped to phase 1 several times, and you are literally optimizing for DPS at that point. Because you're getting it perfect. Or you're optimizing for, like, playing defensively. Like, okay, I need to be on the left side, but if I'm further on the left side, it gives them even more room. And so now you're starting to try to make not just your lives okay, but you're making somebody else's life easier. Right? Because just because you didn't wipe the party doesn't mean there's something you couldn't have done to have helped the person who did make a mistake be less likely to make a mistake. If you've been a little further out of the way, if you'd been stacked a little tighter, maybe it would have made the stack click in their brain. If you'd been stacked a little closer, maybe the healer would have gotten to use AoE heals a little more, right? Like there's always something more you could have done, in addition to just perfecting your rotation and putting out more DPS. But even once you've not gotten hit by anything and you've got a perfect rotation, there's still ways to get better at the game. So I would just go back and help other people. It's see one, do one, teach one. So watch the guide, go in the fight and clear it. Once you clear the fight, go start sharing that knowledge. That's where competence within knowledge comes from. It's also how knowledge gets stuck in your brain. If you only see one and do one, there's a very good chance you're going to forget. So people who study for a test and then take a test, that knowledge is gone. They'll never retain that. See one, do one, teach one. It's when you start passing that knowledge on, when somebody starts asking questions and you're answering them, that it really hones like, you know, now that I say it out loud, let me double check that. It's where you really get things down. That's my experience. So, hopefully that helps. It's why sometimes I make guides on things that have already been made. Because I've got knowledge in my head and I want to share it. And it benefits the community and it benefits me. It benefits everybody. So, if it's Prog 3 or Prog 1, right, you're qualified for everything. Just go join Prog groups. Because they won't expect you to be perfect. Go join Prog groups. Yep. And when they say, how far have you made it? And you go, well, I've gotten the clear. Just trying to get better. Nice, honest answer. And you should be welcome in that party. I've gotten the clear, but I felt a little sloppy during ad phase or something like that. Especially if it's P3. Like, P3, there's a lot going on. And so, like, you could get the clear and have really botched some stuff. Because maybe you didn't get chosen to face one of the little brains out. Or maybe when they called left side, you didn't know where you needed to be, but you just happened to be left side. Right? So, like, and you're getting clipped by meteors. And you're standing on the outside when the bait happens, but the bait never selects you, so it doesn't wipe everybody. Like, there is a way to luck your way through a P3 clear, theoretically, as one person. There's not a way for all 8 people to luck their way through a P3 clear, but somebody in that party could have no idea what's going on and get a clear. For at least particular phases. If they don't know the entire fight, they're going to kill you guys eventually. Just statistically. There's too many things. There's too much responsibility. But if there's 1 or 2 mechanics they don't know, you could absolutely screw that up. So, go help other people. Go help Prog. And especially, like, P1 Prog. Like, if there's a 2 or 3 phase fight, and you're helping with phase 1, I say P1, but now we have Pandemonium, so phase 1, they're not expecting a clear. And so it doesn't matter if you've already gotten loot for the week. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you're on an optimal job. Maybe you're trying to learn on a different job or role. Because they're not expecting a clear. If they're struggling with the first phase of a fight or a major transitional phase of the fight, they're trying to not die to mechanics. You're not running into enrages unless that's a portion of it. Like, in P3, there's a point where you have to burn the ads before a timer goes off. And if that timer goes off, you die. At that point, like, if you can't DPS that fast, that's a problem. But as long as you're not progging ad phase, everything prior to that, don't die. Just don't die. And yeah, it'd be nice to see the boss's health go down faster, but, like, ultimately, everybody in the party could switch to a healer. It could be 2 tanks and 6 healers, and you would get to ad phase easier. Now, once you get to ad phase, you'd have a real problem on your hands. But you could 6 healer, 2 tank to get to that point, to see more mechanics. It would just stretch things out. And that's a thing that people do in Guild Wars a lot, where they're used to messing with the Trinity, because the Trinity's a little less holy than it is in 14. Is they'll bring additional support, healer, defensive builds, because you can swap builds on your class, like, in dungeon. So they'll bring more defensive versions to see more of a fight, and to get through more mechanics. And then, as they consistently get to the final phase, they'll start swapping people to higher DPS specs until the boss goes down. Right? But that's because deaths are something that kind of causes everybody a problem in Guild Wars. There is no, like, raise from afar. You have to go, like, touch somebody, basically. Yeah, and WoW is such a big group that, like, number of healers flexes from fight to fight, right? You know, in a 25-man raid, you have room for... You want 5 healer? You want 7 healer? Like, you can flex. And so, like, comp shifts. Are you melee heavy? Are you ranged heavy? But in 14, our group is so holy that I think sometimes we forget that, like, if you're struggling, change something. Right? But that's also because, like, we go for clears. In WoW, like, there's so many fights that a lot of times you are running a really organic prog. I don't know. There's also weird stuff in, like, the WoW difficulty curve where, like, sometimes you pull the bosses out of the order that other groups do. Like, you kill them in a different order. So, like, there's some weird stuff that goes on in WoW. Same with Guild Wars. Like, with Guild Wars, sometimes you finish the first 3 bosses of a wing, and then you move to another wing, and then you come back and finish the 4th boss. And that's a weird thing that doesn't happen in 14, you kill them in order. You don't hear people going, well, you'll do P1, and then you'll do P3, and then you'll go back for P2. Because with only 4 fights, we keep them in a curve. As a matter of fact, the bigger problem, in my opinion, with Savage is that because there's only 4 fights, the curve has to ramp up so much to be able to give the challenging content that people want and the entry-level content that people want. And so it just ends up being a bit of like a half pipe where it becomes this parabolic curve that goes up so fast. It's just exponential in difficulty from one fight to the next. And it would be nicer if it kind of like had some softness to it, like if you had something kind of pushing down, and that would require that we move to 5 or 6 fights for a tier, and they just don't have the resources to do that. We commit to 3 tiers per expansion, so if they move to 5, that's 3 additional fights they have to do, and it looks like they're instead considering moving to a second ultimate, but maybe not. Maybe we're going to get Shadowbringer's ultimate, and then we're going to have Endwalker's ultimate, and we'll go back to 1. I'm not really sure how that math works. Because there is a very real thing where, like, Dragon Song Reprise is Shadowbringer's ultimate. It doesn't matter that it releases in 6.11. It's Shadowbringer's ultimate. So when they said it's delayed, I said, I'll believe it when I see it. Because in my mind, if we do not get another ultimate in Endwalker, then it was not delayed, it was canceled. And the next ultimate became Dragon Song Reprise. But, like, Dragon Song is Shadowbringer's ultimate. If we do not get another ultimate this expansion, then the delay of the 5.3 ultimate was effectively a cut ultimate. So. But 6 fights would help. Would 2 tiers of 6 do what you're recommending? It would shrink the curve, but it would do so by removing. So what you're talking about at that point is what we have right now. Let's drop it to 3 just because it's easier to describe in, like, fast food terms. What we have right now is in difficulty, we have a small, a medium, and a large difficulty. What you're saying is I want to move to a small, a small large, a medium small, a medium large, a large small, and a large large over 2 tiers instead of 3. The problem with that is, like, yes, that ultimately helps more people climb the curve, but people at the top actually get less of the fights they want. Instead of 2 of the hardest fights they felt comfortable putting in the game, or 3, they drop to 2. So you're actually getting less fights. And from the entry-level standpoint, instead of getting 3 entry-level fights, you're getting 2 entry-level fights. Those kind of door bosses, those P1s. Which my experience with the first boss is E9 and P1, and both of them went down in under an hour. Second fight, both went down in their first lockout, E10 and P2. I did P1 and P2 in combined, I think, like 45 or 50 minutes for the first time. Both went down. They just fell over. Now, I'm in parties that have, you know, the majority of the people in the party know the fight. Everybody in the party has at least seen the guide. And while, yes, it's only my first 2 raid tiers in Final Fantasy, it is not my first 2 raid tiers in a tab target MMO. I'm also on a tank, so, like, it's a fairly forgiving role if my rotation falls to crap. What's more important is I know the mechanics, and, like, I've been decent at studying those in advance, so I'm not going in blind. So, like, there's a lot of caveats to the experience I'm having. But, like, the moment I got to E11 and P3, it's been a huge problem. Both times. When I made it to E11, I hadn't studied for it because I thought we'd only get 3 or 4 fights cleared in a night. And we got Diamond EX, E1 and E2 just all fell over. We got Diamond EX almost on the first pull. Almost. We made it to, like, Enrage on the first pull. And then the second pull, we downed it. So, like, it just fell out of the way. And apparently the 2 extremes this time would have done the same thing. So, like, Todd just didn't even take me to the extremes. I studied for him. We just didn't even do them. I still haven't done them. So he's like, no, let's just get you into Savage. So I think, but this time I did study for P3 as opposed to I did not study for E11, and it just embarrassed me. And I felt red in the face, and I felt gross, and I didn't like it. It was for charity, so, like, you know, I sucked it up and did it. If it hadn't been, I probably would have called it a night. It didn't feel good. So this time I thought, okay, what's in my control? Study. So I studied for P3. Did a lot better. It's still hard. It's still hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's really, really hard. Because the first fight is meant to just show you how hard everything can hit versus extreme. The second fight is meant to give you some group responsibility, but ultimately if an individual is screwing up, depending on the individual, you can probably get by. By the third fight, it is a statistical anomaly if one person goes all the way through the fight without wiping you. There is individual responsibility group-wide. By the fourth fight, there is now individual responsibility group-wide with coordination while maintaining good rotations. In the third fight, there's some moments both times where it felt like as long as there's some people in your group that can just tear it up, there are people that can be a bit suboptimal in their rotations. The fourth fight doesn't feel that way. Everybody needs to know what they're doing. And anybody who doesn't is like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be better. Okay, well, get better. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can't be expected to do your job. You know? Like, it just, every time I made a mistake, it wiped the group. Every single time in E12, I made a mistake, it wiped the group. It just, every single time. And P4 looks like it's going to be the same thing. Every single time you cause a problem, just wipe it up. But P3, like, adds, well, if you have two kind of on the lower end DPS people and you're able to split them up, you might be able to still get those adds down in P3. But that's because other people in your group are doing more than their fair share of the work. But you could get there. I don't know that P4 is tuned like that. I'm not sure. I haven't done it. But E12 didn't feel like that. E12 felt like if you had people in your group that were not getting better, they needed to go back to E9 through 11 and get better, which is why they're there, right? They can go clear those every week. So they needed to go back and practice some steps that they haven't gotten better at yet. It doesn't mean absolute perfection. Like, I was not perfect at E12 by any stretch. But it does mean that, like, major mistakes were pretty lacking. I had a pretty clean final pull relative to, like, when we first got in there. You know, things like Shiva phase cannot be giving you a problem. Like, you need to understand how that stuff works, or you're gonna frustrate people. Because when you're wiping to Shiva phase over and over and over because of the same person, that group's gonna fall apart. Because you're just not you're not going to get a clear. Like, if they can't see a mistake and correct a mistake, you're just not going to get a clear. So if you're feeling uncomfortable with fight 1 or fight 2 or fight 3, absolutely you're doing the right thing to go back, get re-clears, and get better. Or you've got to study more for the next fights. Prog groups if your muscle memory is mush. Yep. Prog groups if your memory is mush. Drive things into memory. If you're worried about it, if you want to be better at a fight, if you just want to clear every single fight once, then just move on. But yes, prog groups to build your muscle memory. Keep doing prog groups if you're trying to get better at the fights. If you just want to clear them once, just study more for the next one and spend time on a target dummy. That's what I did through EE 9 through 12. I didn't go back and re-clear any of those. I just kept moving forward, but I just studied harder and spent time on a target dummy when I wasn't streaming. And my rotations got better. And I poured over a DPS meter. I don't know how people do it without data. I don't know how people do it without data. I want to see what my bad habits are. And my bad habits on a target dummy are not the same as my bad habits when I'm in a pull that's going sideways. When I'm in a pull where I forgot there's a mechanic that I need to run left and then I'm sprinting left, I want to know what my rotation does then. And there's a couple habits, and they're not, oh, it's not like, oh, well, it's just random. You're just going to make mistakes. It's not random. I make the same mistakes every single time. And the reason I know that is because I was parsed, and I went and pulled my parse. I wasn't running a parser any of my Savage runs because I didn't want to be distracted by it. But other people are, and that's great. I like it. I have it installed on this machine. I just wasn't using it. But I love it. I love it. I love being parsed. Do it. I was so late to the first Savages this time around, and performed so poorly in my rotation on P1 and P2 that I parsed like a literal 0 on one of them. That means that 100% of players are better than me, roughly. There's probably a couple of us down in the zeros, but like just from the sheer number of pulls. But due to my gear and my mistakes on my rotation, I parsed a literal 0. So if I want that to get better, I should go back in. And if it stresses me out to go back in with a high-stakes group of really high performers, I should go join prog groups. So, as a Reaper pulling 7k in Savage, you'd get gray parses for that. I gray parsed. But my experience with normal when I got better at it was I went from gray to green to blue really quickly. It'll shock you how much repeats make you better. Partially because your gear is going to get better, partially because you're going to improve really fast, and partially because you're comparing to all the people who are still new. Every single week is somebody's first week into normal or into Savage. And you just got to beat those people. And top players have a lot of parses. You know, I've been pulling, when I was trying to get better at normal, I pulled 10 or 20 parses and I got a lot better. And when you look at these groups, like when you look at people like Rin and Todd, and you're like, how do they know this? They'll have speed clearing nights where they'll go kill a fight a dozen times in one night. They have hundreds of pulls to optimize these. You know, in WoW, it's not uncommon to talk about hundreds of prog pulls to get your first down. Like, when you look at world first players, I think people underestimate, they see the clear, and they remember the clear. What they're not remembering is that they've been on this fight for hours. It's hundreds of pulls. Hundreds of pulls. And every time they get punched in the face, sometimes they're catching that same right, you know, haymaker over and over to the face, and it's just slamming them down, slamming them down, slamming them down, and they just get up and they do it again. And again, and again, and again. So they are more practiced. They learn faster in this type of content through all that practice and through all their past experiences, and it still takes them so much time to deliver at the degree that they do. World first players are incredibly impressive in their resilience and in their loyalty.